My husband put my high-risk pregnancy in jeopardy with a so-called harmless prank and later told me he hoped I'd lose the baby. I divorced him, and now he won't be able to see my son. I'm 35 years old and pregnant with my first child. My husband, Jackson, and I have been married for 4 years, trying to conceive since we got married. After years of struggle and disappointment, we were overjoyed to learn I was pregnant. This baby means the world to us, but my pregnancy has been classified as high risk, so I've been doing everything possible to ensure our baby's health and safety. That includes being cautious about stress levels, physical activity, and anything that could endanger the pregnancy. For context, Jackson grew up in a family that loves pranks. His mom, my mother-in-law, is the queen of practical jokes and instilled this love in her kids. Jackson has always been fond of pranks, and while it was sometimes annoying, I could usually overlook it. To be honest, it caused arguments, especially when he pranked my family or friends, but we'd reconcile the same day. However, after learning this pregnancy was high risk, I sat Jackson down and explained how crucial it was to avoid stress. I explicitly told him I didn't want any pranks while I was pregnant, emphasizing that even small, harmless ones could cause unnecessary anxiety, which I needed to avoid for the baby's sake. He seemed to understand and promised to respect my boundaries. 4 months, he kept that promise, until a few days ago. It started as a normal day. I was relaxing in the living room when Jackson shouted from the kitchen, "Fire! Fire! The stove's in flames!" My heart raced instantly. I jumped up panicked and ran to the kitchen as fast as I could. In those seconds, 1,000 thoughts flooded my mind. Was the fire spreading? Would the house burn down? Was I inhaling smoke that could harm the baby? When I got there was no fire, just Jackson standing with a lit match, grinning, pretending to fan an imaginary flame. He laughed and said, "Relax, Anna, it was a joke." It wasn't funny at all. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what happened, then started crying uncontrollably, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. I'd been so clear about my boundaries and why they mattered, and he'd blatantly ignored them. Through tears, I told him what he did was cruel and crossed a critical line. His response, "You're overreacting. It was just a prank. You need to chill." After trying so hard to have a baby, you'd think he'd think twice about causing me stress. We could lose this baby, or even me at any moment, and it felt like he didn't care. I locked myself in our bedroom for hours. He tried to apologize, but his apologies felt insincere, saying things like, "I didn't think you'd take it seriously," or, "You know I'd never endanger the baby." That wasn't the point. He deliberately ignored my wishes and caused me stress for a few seconds of fun. I thought he understood how important this boundary was, but I was wrong. Things got worse when my mother-in-law got involved. Jackson called her to complain about my reaction, and she took a side. She called me, saying I was too sensitive and needed a sense of humor, that their family has always been like this, and I shouldn't take things so personally. When I explained it wasn't about the prank itself, but Jackson crossing a boundary tied to the baby's health and safety, she brushed it off, saying, "You can't control everything, Anna. Stress is part of life, and you'll have to deal with it as a mother." She even said Jackson was doing me a favor by toughening me up, and that I shouldn't blame him for trying to help me handle stress better. Her comments made me feel worse, like neither Jackson nor she understood or cared why this mattered so much. Since then, things have been tense at home. Jackson acts like I'm the villain for being upset, and my mother-in-law keeps sending passive-aggressive texts about relaxing and not letting pregnancy hormones control me. I feel completely invalidated and alone, on top of managing a high-risk pregnancy. I've tried explaining to Jackson why this upsets me, but he insists I'm overreacting, even saying, This is how my family is. You need to get used to it. When the baby comes, he'll learn to pull fun pranks too. That's not fair. I'm not asking him to change his personality or stop pranks forever, just to pause while I'm pregnant, especially given the risks. What hurts most is the trust. I trusted Jackson to respect my wishes and prioritize my health and the baby's safety, and he let me down. Instead of owning his mistake, he acts like the prank was nothing and makes me feel like the problem for not finding it funny. So here I am on Reddit, wondering if I'm overreacting, as he and his mother keep saying. The prank didn't physically harm me or the baby, but it could have. In that moment, I truly believe there was a fire. The fear and panic were real. I've been doing everything to stay calm and avoid stress for the baby, and this prank felt like a betrayal of that effort. Yet, I wonder if I'm being too sensitive. Jackson insists he meant no harm, and my mother-in-law says I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe they're right, but part of me feels my emotions are valid, and this isn't as simple as they claim. I'm turning to you all for perspective. Am I wrong to be upset about this prank? Am I overreacting, or is my frustration justified? If I'm overreacting, I want to adjust my perspective. But if my feelings are valid, how do I make Jackson understand how serious this is? I love him, and I know he loves me, but right now, we're on completely different wavelengths. After posting and reading comments, I took time to calm down and reflect. I realized that while I was justified in being upset about Jackson's prank and his disregard for my boundaries, my response, locking myself away and refusing to talk, wasn't the most productive. Some comments suggested resolving things quickly through calm communication would have been better, especially given my pregnancy stress. So, I apologized to Jackson for how I handled it, saying I regretted not addressing it more constructively and letting tension linger. I reiterated why the prank upset me, not the prank itself, but how it broke his promise to avoid pranks during my pregnancy. Jackson accepted my apology and admitted the prank was a bad idea, apologizing again for crossing my boundaries. He said he thought it would be harmless fun and didn't realize how deeply it would affect me. He now understands why I reacted that way and promised no more pranks until after the baby's born, which was a relief. My mother-in-law chimed in, saying my apology was mature, and while she still thought I overreacted, she could see why I was upset. She wanted things to return to normal and focus on the baby. At first, I felt good about apologizing and moving forward. It cleared the air and reduced tension. But then I made the mistake of discussing this with friends, and now I'm questioning my decision. When I shared the prank, my reaction, and my apology, they were shocked, saying things like, "Why did you apologize? He's the one who messed up. And you're lucky you're even speaking to him." One friend said apologizing first might have sent the wrong message, making it seem like I was taking blame for something not my fault. Their reactions made me doubt myself. Did I downplay my feelings by apologizing? Did I let Jackson off too easily? Part of me feels I did the right thing to move forward, but another wonders if I should have waited for him to fully acknowledge the situation's seriousness. I'm in a strange limbo, glad we're not fighting, with things calmer at home, but questioning if I handled it wrong. I want to focus on my health and the baby, but this lingering doubt makes it hard to feel at peace. I'm grateful for the community's input and would appreciate advice on whether I let Jackson off too easily or if taking the lead was mature, as my mother-in-law said. Unfortunately, that sense of stability was shattered last week. Jackson's brothers came to visit for a week, and I was looking forward to spending time with them to rebuild positivity before the baby arrives. But what happened left me feeling betrayed by those I trusted. I went out for a quick errand to buy dinner supplies. When I returned, I entered quietly and overheard Jackson and his brothers talking in the living room. They didn't realize I was there, so I paused to avoid interrupting. That's when I heard a conversation that broke my heart. One brother, let's call him Ed, was laughing, saying, "Man, Anna's so sensitive, I don't know how you deal with her." Another chimed in joking, "Why'd you marry her? You could have found someone who doesn't freak out over everything." I couldn't believe it when Jackson laughed and said, "Yeah, I know she overreacts to everything, but it's easier to let her think she's right." Hearing his brothers mock me was bad enough, but Jackson agreeing, after everything we'd been through, felt like a betrayal. They thought I was still shopping and couldn't hear. I didn't know what to do, so I slipped upstairs to our bedroom and shut the door, too angry and hurt to confront him then. I'm writing this trying to hold back tears, feeling emotional and furious, but trapped because his brothers are here for the week. I don't want to make a scene while they're here, but I don't know how I'll get through pretending everything's fine. I keep replaying the conversation, questioning everything. Was Jackson just going along to avoid conflict, or does he really feel this way? Was his apology for the prank sincere, or did he just say what he thought I wanted? My friends were right. I shouldn't have apologized. I try to take the high road, but it feels ignored. Jackson and his family clearly don't respect me, and I don't know how to move forward. For now, I'm keeping my composure until his brothers leave. Then I plan to confront Jackson about what I heard. I need to know if he truly feels this way, or if it was a misguided attempt to bond with his brothers at my expense. Either way, I can't ignore this. Just days after that, I'm writing from a friend's house, where I'm staying because I've decided I can't remain in that house or marriage. After Jackson's brothers left, I confronted him about what I overheard. I spent the week holding in my anger, staying calm for the baby's sake, but I couldn't let it slide longer. I sat him down, told him exactly what I heard his brothers say, and how it felt to hear him laugh and agree. I asked if he really felt that way about me. At first, he downplayed it, saying he was joking and his brothers didn't mean it. I wasn't buying it. I said this wasn't just about their words, but a pattern of disrespect and lack of support from him and his family throughout my pregnancy. I reminded him of the prank, his mother dismissing my feelings, and now this. I asked how he could justify laughing at my expense after everything. That's when things escalated. He got defensive, saying, "You're always overreacting. I can't do anything right in your eyes." He blamed me for our marriage's tension, claiming I've been too sensitive and impossible since getting pregnant. I told him this wasn't about sensitivity, but his complete disregard for my feelings and our baby's safety. I reminded him this baby was something we both wanted and worked for. I couldn't understand why he acted like he didn't care. Then he said something that broke me completely. He shouted, "I didn't even want this baby, Anna. You're the one obsessed with it. I was hoping you'd lose it so things could go back to normal." I froze, hoping I'd misheard, but when I asked him to repeat it, he didn't back down. He said, "I'm not ready to be a father. You're so wrapped up in this pregnancy, you don't see how miserable I've been." I realized I couldn't stay with him. This wasn't just about a prank or an overheard conversation. It was about my supposed partner revealing he didn't care about me or our child. I didn't say another word, packed a bag, called a friend, and left. I'm staying with her now, and she's been incredibly supportive. I've contacted my family, and my aunt, who has legal experience, connected me with an excellent divorce lawyer. I haven't told Jackson where I am and have no intention of returning. I've had enough of his disrespect, his family's toxic behavior, and his indifference toward me and our baby. I'm devastated, angry, and in shock. He never hinted he didn't want to be a father. In fact, he often said he did. But to him, not being able to prank me during my pregnancy was enough to make him miserable. I don't know if the prank was truly a joke or if he hoped I'd miscarry, but I know I deserve better. A year and a half later, life has been a whirlwind, but I'm in a much better place. I finalized my divorce from Jackson months ago. It wasn't easy, but I'm proud of standing my ground. I took him to court for child support, ensuring he took responsibility for the baby he claimed he didn't want. He fought hard, claiming he couldn't afford it despite a stable income. His family harassed me after I filed, bombarding me with calls, messages, and even showing up uninvited at my apartment to intimidate me into dropping the case. It got so bad I involved my lawyer and documented every incident. I felt overwhelmed but refused to back down. I filed a harassment lawsuit against Jackson and his family with enough evidence from messages, visits, and threats to build a strong case. It was stressful and dragged on, but I won. Jackson is now legally obligated to pay child support, and he and his family face significant fines for harassment. I also have restraining orders against his family, so they can't contact or approach me. It's been a long, painful journey, but I feel free. My baby, now a year old, healthy and happy, is my greatest blessing. My focus is on him, leaving behind Jackson's foolish pranks, manipulation, and everything tied to being married to him. Jackson relinquished his parental rights, so he has no legal responsibility for my son, which saved legal battles since I was ready to fight for full custody. That doesn't exempt him from child support, though. This experience taught me you can't let anyone diminish your worth or make you feel powerless. I faced many challenges, but am proud of the strength I found and the support from those who matter. Recently, my son turned 3, and I can't believe how much time has passed. When I started the story, he was still inside me during a high-risk pregnancy, and I was dealing with my ex-husband's pranks. That same ex-husband, my only one, has decided he wants back into my son's life. He's been emailing and even showing up at my workplace, saying he wants to talk about being part of our son's life, claiming he's now ready to be a father. Legally, I'm not obligated to allow it, and I don't want to. He keeps insisting, saying I should consider it because a child shouldn't grow up without a father. But he didn't think about that when he pulled a prank knowing my pregnancy was high risk, or when he relinquished his parental rights. Now, years later, he wants to waltz back in as a dad. Someone needs to tell him that's not how it works. Someone he'll listen to, because I've tried, and he won't. You can't decide you want a child, leave your pregnant wife, then decide you're not ready, only to change your mind again. That's irresponsible, making him unfit to be a father. Nothing stops him from meeting my son one day and deciding the next he's not ready again. What would I tell my son? That his dad doesn't want him anymore. So I've said no. When my son grows up, I'll tell him about his father, and if he wants to meet him, it'll be his choice as an adult. For now, I won't let Jackson near him. My lawyer and I obtained a restraining order to keep him away from my son, as he was getting persistent, and I didn't want things to escalate further. Thankfully, the judge granted it, especially since Jackson's pranks have landed him in other legal troubles, making the case straightforward. I hope I don't have to post again, saying Jackson's tried something new. As for now, he hasn't returned, and the restraining order hasn't been needed. I sleep better knowing it's in place. He seems to have realized again he's not ready to be a father, as he hasn't asked to meet my son since. I even suspect it might have been another of his famous pranks. With him, anything's possible,